over here?
I'm Ari, it's me. No, I was just going to cross out Nikki and Gus's names because they're not here today. So that makes it easy for whoever's reading.
Good morning. My name is Kristen Hartman. My pronouns are she, her, and I've been entrusted with the honor of serving on your board of trustees. I'm a tall, white, fat femme millennial with blue hair and blue eyes. Today I'm wearing a blue and orange dress just to complete that theme. Our speakers provide visual descriptions to welcome people with visual impairments and those listening online. We're excited to be in community with you today. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones and move to a seat in the middle of your section, if you can, to leave aisle seats open for those with accessibility needs. Thank you. If you're visiting for the first time, stop by the welcome table out in the gallery to pick up a visitor gift with more information about our community. Look for the Getting to Know UU sign in Beach Hall after the service to learn more about our congregation. And everyone is welcome to talk to me or any other board member after the service. There is a lot going on at First UU. Please see the order of service or this week's announcement email. Our Justice and Equity student minister, Paisha Thomas, has two important messages for First UU. She writes, first, my sincerest thank you to everyone who donated to my Faithify campaign for my study trip to Africa. Thanks to your donations, I've raised the money to cover my total airfare costs. We love you, Paisha. Second, anyone who can make it is invited to my graduation at MTSO this Saturday, May 23rd at 11 a.m. The invitation card is in the office on the co-working table where you can find the address for the ceremony. Please rise in body or in spirit to sing hymn number 287, Faith of the Larger Liberty, in your gray hymnal.
Faith of the larger liberty, source of the light expanding, law of the church that is to be, old bondage notwithstanding. Faith of the free, by thee we live, by all thou givest, and shalt give our loyalty commanding. Heroes of faith in every age, far-seeing, self-denying, wrought an increasing heritage, monarch and creed defying. Faith of the free, in thy dear name, the costly heritage we claim, their living and their dying. Faith for the people everywhere, whatever their oppression, of all who make the world more fair, living their faith's confession. Faith of the free, whate'er our plight, thy law, thy liberty, thy light shall be our blessed possession.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Meg McGuire. I'm grateful to serve this congregation as an affiliated community minister. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a white woman in my 30s with blonde hair. I'm wearing a white stole and a burnt orange shirt. We gather this morning on the stolen land of the Wyandot, Miami, Seneca, Erie, Shawnee, Delaware, and Cayuga people, many of whom were forcibly removed from their land. This congregation supports the Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio in their Land Back campaign. And we know that we have a lot to do to be in true relationship and solidarity with this land and those indigenous to it.
Aha, hi. I think we need to bring this down a little bit, yeah. I'm shrinking. There you go. Magic. Hi, I'm Susan Carr. I am a short 70, I wish I was 37, 73-year-old white woman wearing a patterned blouse, brown pants, and my pronouns are she, her.
I am Erin Riley Sanders, a middle-aged white woman with glasses who uses she, they pronouns.
We're here to introduce everyone to the Anti-Racist Allies 2006 Congregational Read, stamped from the beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. If a long book is not your idea of a summer read, we've got you covered because this important work comes in shorter versions geared toward younger readers, middle school, and high school readers. So we've got Jason Reynolds stamped Racism, Anti-Racism, and You. We've got for the younger readers stamped for kids. And if you like graphic novel, we've got a graphic novel as well. There's also a Netflix movie.
The authors of Stamped reflect on history, primarily history of the United States. Happy 250th birthday to the Declaration of Independence, to show how people have taken one of three stances. One, segregationist, haters, according to Jason Reynolds. He puts things very, very, right out there. People who hate you for not being like them. Or two, assimilationist, people who like you for being like them. But we need to become anti-racist, people who love you because you're like you. Our communal values, especially love, justice, equity, and pluralism, urge us toward this third stance, one that requires action and engagement. We're starting by asking you to read one of these books, aiming to weave their teachings into our congregational life. To give you a small taste, although I promise that Jason Reynolds is far better when he is reading the audio of the teen version. Before we begin, let's get something straight. This is not a history book. I repeat, this is not a history book, at least not like the ones you're used to reading in school. The ones that feel more like a list of dates, there will be some, with an occasional war here or there, a declaration, definitely got to mention that, a constitution, that too, a court case or two, and of course the paragraph that's read during Black History Month. Harriet, Rosa, Martin. This isn't that. This isn't a history book, or at least it's not that kind of history book. Instead, what this is a book that contains history, a history connected to our lives as we live them right this minute. This is a present book, a book about the here and now, a book that will hopefully help us better understand why we are where we are as Americans, specifically as our identity pertains to race.
You are invited to discuss this book in a series of monthly Zoom meetings starting in June. Or join us for a fall watch party of the documentary, or catch a little of an interview between Kendi and Jason Reynolds in Beach Hall after a service. Some of the details in the see some of the details in the Friday newsletter, and stay tuned for more information. This one too.
You will also see this poster hanging up in the hallway by Beach Hall. There we go.
This is a communal reading log. Please add your name to the book or books you've read. We've brought you the book. Now you need to help bring the congregation. You need to help bring the congregation to make this congregational read a success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan and Erin. I look forward to reading that. It's not been on my list yet. Good morning. Good morning. I am the Reverend Dr. Teresa Cooley. It's my pleasure to serve you as the lead minister here. I'm a medium-height woman in my early 60s, mid-60s now, with silver hair and glasses and wearing blue shirt and green stole, and my pronouns are she, her. Our opening words come from my colleague, Katie Romano Griffith. Come, let us enter into this space of hope and community. Come, let us enter into this space with our sorrows, our joys, our passions, and our compassion. Come, let us enter into this space with the stories of our ancestors, for their strength and wisdom beats in our hearts. Come into this space present to the beloved companions who move beside us. Come into this space mindful that together we are building a future for other generations. Come into this space and let us worship. It is now time for our children to meet Amber in the back to prepare to bring in the light. And everybody else, please turn to your neighbors and introduce yourself to one another.
It is now time for our children to bring in the light. We light our chalice this morning to honor the memory of those who have come before us, kindling flames of wisdom in dark times, willing to challenge orthodoxy, even at great personal risk, giving us a legacy of freedom and a love of truth, a legacy that warms our hearts and lights our path.
Juniper, for your help lighting our chalice this morning. Good morning. I'm Amber Scott, your Director of Religious Exploration, and my pronouns are she, they. I'm a white femme millennial with wild and wonderful wavy hair, and I'm wearing a dark t-shirt that reads, Black Lives Matter. Today's story is called Henry Climbs a Mountain and is based on the true story of Unitarian and transcendentalist Henry David Thoreau, written and illustrated by D.B. Johnson. Henry wanted to climb a mountain, but he only had one shoe. His other shoe was at the shoemaker's being fixed. I'll get it on my way, he thought. But on his way to the shoemaker's shop, Henry was stopped by Sam, the tax collector. Henry, he said, you haven't paid your taxes. Pay a state that lets farmers own slaves? Never, said Henry. You'll have to pay or go to jail, Sam said. Then take me to jail, said Henry. And Sam did. The door slammed shut. Henry lay down on the bed and looked up at the white walls and the white ceiling. He put his bare foot against the wall. I wish I had my other shoe, Henry thought. He took crayons from his pocket and drew a shoe on the white wall. Beside the shoe, he drew a flower with a hummingbird in it. Next, Henry drew the tree the hummingbird lived in. Under the tree, he drew a path that crossed a river and climbed a mountain. Henry got his shoes wet. As he drew up the wall, he sang a song. The bear goes over the mountain, the bear goes over the mountain, the bear goes over the mountain to see what he can see. Henry climbed up waterfalls. He marched in and out of clouds. When it started to rain, Henry pulled his hat down and put on his coat. He drew a hawk soaring in the clouds on the ceiling. At the top of the mountain, Henry met a traveler coming up the other side, and he was singing this song. The other side of the mountain, the other side of the mountain, the other side of the mountain will set me free at last. Henry and the traveler sat together on the mountaintop. They talked and laughed and sang more songs. You have no shoes, said Henry. Are you walking far? As far as the star in the north, the traveler said. That's a long way, said Henry. Take my shoes. The traveler put on Henry's shoes. He stood and waved. Thank you, friend, he called. Henry started back down the mountain. The path went up and down again over sharp rocks that hurt his feet. He tripped over tree roots and logs in the path. Ouch, said Henry. Once he caught his foot in a rabbit hole. Henry rolled down the last hill and splashed across the river. He had not slept all night. The sun was coming up when he stumbled into the small room. Just then, the door opened. It was Sam. Someone has paid your taxes, Henry, Sam said. How does it feel to be free? Henry smiled. It feels like being on top of a very tall mountain, he said. And he walked to the shoemaker's shop to buy a new pair of shoes. The end. In 1846, Unitarian Henry David Thoreau refused to pay taxes and spent a night in jail to protest slavery. His resulting speech on the topic, Civil Disobedience, inspired future nonviolent actions from leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thoreau also assisted runaway slaves seeking freedom in Canada. Today, let us consider how we too can take action for justice. Please remain seated with hands over your hearts as we sing number 118, This Little Light of Mine, to sing our beloved children back to their families and out to class.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Hello. I'm Whitney Dawn Piles. I'm a white-ish woman in my late 30s. I'm wearing a froggy pin and a cheetah shirt and some mint green pants. My pronouns are she, her. And I've been a member at First UU a little over a year. Let's not touch the microphone. A little over a year. And I meant to start this with, I came to this church because, hey, I gotta say a few things, okay? Okay. Thank you. And that's a really wild story, in my opinion. So here we go. My husband Jay and I were in town checking out Columbus after he got a job offer here. And we were exploring and sussing out if it was somewhere where we felt we could live. And on that little trip down, we stayed at an Airbnb, like a real one where the hosts live in the house and there's other guests. It was lovely. And there was another guest staying at the same time as we were. Down. His name was Bob. Down? Okay. All right, love you. His name was Bob, and we ended up talking to Bob for 4 hours, sitting on the lovely deck of this lovely Airbnb in Clintonville. We told him a little bit of our life stories, heard a lot about his life story, and just through this sprawling, organic, very long conversation, this man, Bob, said that if we chose to move here based on what we had shared, that we should check out First UU. Well, spoiler alert, we did. Here we are. And we moved to town and completely randomly ended up renting a house right down the street, walking distance from here. So we walked to our first service here. Breakfast was popping, and there was not a seat in Beach Hall to be sat in, but plenty of tater tots to go around. Where am I? So who I now know as a fantastic human, Myra, got up and offered us a seat, and we sat down next to Becca Morse, the office manager here. We had a wonderful interaction, a great morning. I'm brought to tears by the service. Nathan played a song from Interstellar or Inception. I don't remember which one, but of course that Inception. It blew us away, and I felt like I was home. Like I could be all of myself in this place. On top of that, a week later, I come to find out that Becca's in-laws and my in-laws are very good friends from West Virginia. My husband actually attended her wedding a couple decades ago as a child. So long story long, all of that to say, I believe that we were led here. I don't know what you believe, and I love that regardless of what you believe and what I believe, we get to coexist here. But what I believe is that we were led here. By something bigger than us, by synchronicity. And I believe that we followed some cues and we received some really divine affirmation that we were in the right place. And that sense of synchronicity and rightness and resonance has just continued since that first Sunday. Aside from that, I keep coming back because I am in awe of a spiritual community that values science and reason, diversity of thought and faith, a spiritual community that affirms and includes instead of excludes, a spiritual community that embodies its values truly and deeply. And like I said, I came to First UU because something led me here, testimonials of others, a chance encounter, but I've continued to come back, not just for myself, but because this is the type of place that I believe will leave my 3-year-old daughter here, with right on cue, with so much less deconditioning and deconstructing to do as she gets older. I grew up in a Presbyterian church where as a child I was told to be seen and not heard. My daughter is not shushed here, as she's demonstrating. She's not made to feel small, even though she is. She is tiny and adorable. She dances down the aisles and she's smiled at, cheered on, told, "I love you," instead of being silenced and told to sit down. My daughter Sedona comes with us on Sundays, and she also attends the incredible school for young children. In these places, she's empowered to listen to her body, to be free, to think, act, and do for herself, and she is not chastised for being the wonderful, wild, and disruptive way that she is. She's allowed to be a child here, encouraged to be herself, just as I am. I think she feels comfortable to be here, just like I do, fully myself, authentic in my expression, an individual in my spiritual beliefs. All of that is invaluable to me as a human and as a mother, and I can't imagine a better place to have found community. All of this resonance and hope and rightness is made possible by your gifts and contributions. So during our pledge drive is a great time to assess what this church means to you, and if you can deepen your financial support. We hope to have pledge forms by last Friday, but you can drop yours off in a basket, at the table, in the gallery, or online. Thank you for being a part of this congregation and helping it to flourish and thrive and hold us all.
She can run around anytime. For the month of May, we will be sharing our offering plate with the Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio, which we referenced in our land acknowledgement earlier. NACO is devoted to preserving and restoring the balance in the lives of Native Americans through traditional, cultural, educational, family, community, and wellness-driven values and initiatives. It is our opportunity to truly show where our values lie. So in addition to passing the basket, you can text to give, scan the QR code, or visit firstucolumbus.org/donate. Thank you for your generosity. The ushers will now receive the offering.
is Pat Snyder. If you have something on your heart or your mind, Pat will be available after the service in Beach Hall and will be a wonderful listener. We have one caring card this morning. New member Ann Urich fell and broke her shoulder recently. Thankfully, she doesn't require surgery, but the recovery will be long, so we'll be holding her in our hearts. I'd invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer or contemplation with these words from Clint Smith. Some evenings, after days when the world feels like it has poured out all its despair onto me, when I am awash with burdens that rest atop my body like burlap of jostling shadows, I find a place to watch the sunset. I dig my feet into a soil that has rebirthed itself a million times over. I listen to the sound of leaves as they decide whether or not it is time to descend from their branches. It is hard to describe the comfort one feels in sitting with something you trust will always be there, something you can count on to remain familiar when all else seems awry. How remarkable it is to know that so many have watched the same sunset before you. How the wind can carry pollen and drop it somewhere it has never been. How the leaves have always become the soil that then becomes the leaves again. How maybe we're not so different than the leaves. How maybe we are also always being reborn to something more than we once were. How maybe that's what waking up each morning is. A reminder that we are born of the same atoms as every plant and bird and mountain and ocean around us. I will ring our temple bell and invite you into a moment of shared silence.
Thank you, choir. And that is just a preview of what you can hear if you come to the choir concert this afternoon. Our reading this morning comes from Henry David Thoreau. Sorry. I have to tell you, I learned you have to pronounce it Thoreau. Tip to the wise. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. Nor did I wish to practice resignation unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck out all of the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to rout all that was not life, to cut a broad swath and shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. And if it proved to be mean, why then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world? Or, if it were sublime, to know it by experience and to be able to give a true account of it in my next excursion. Please stay seated for our meditative hymn, Do You Hear? Number 112 in your gray hymnal.
Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand, through the sky, through the land? Do you hear, in the heights, on the plain, in the vale, on the main, in the sun, in the rain? Do you hear, Through the roar, through the rush, through the throng, through the crush, do you hear in the hush of your soul, Hear the cry, fear won't still, hear the heart's call to will, hear a sigh, startling trill in your soul, From the place where you stand to the outermost strand, do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear, all the dreams, all the dares, all the sighs, all the prayers, they are yours, mine and theirs. Do you hear,
I have talked before about being raised as a Unitarian Universalist in Texas, something that I know some people consider an oxymoron. It is true that Unitarian Universalism did not arrive in Texas until the 1950s or so it's not like it is a long-established institution there. But for me, it was life-saving. To be able to have a church that was in concert with my values within the larger concert of the religious conservatism of the small town in which I grew up meant the world to me. And that was part of the reason, just a year out of college, I decided to go to divinity school to prepare for the UU ministry. My first year, I took a job as the youth director at the First Parish in Concord, a church that was founded in 1636 as part of the Puritan established order, but which became Unitarian in 1826. The current building was built in 1901. Excuse me. The current building was built in 1901, but in the style of its origin, with a high steeple topped by a gold dome and a very, very traditional interior. They still spoke the Lord's Prayer every Sunday, something that I found frankly appalling in my humanist soul. Contrast this with the church that I grew up in, which was a very modern style with an iron sculpture of flying birds on the chancel. I can't imagine the Lord's Prayer was ever spoken in those walls. So I couldn't believe that I was really in a Unitarian Universalist church, but I was really excited to be working in the church that had been home to Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, whom I had already studied and knew of. So one of the first things I did was to go and visit the replica of Thoreau's cabin in the woods. I was in a long line of tourists, and behind me was a British woman who was planning the rest of her tourist day, and she said to her husband, "I've heard that we should also go and visit Lake Wobegon." I thought about letting it go, but I finally turned to her and said, Lake Wobegon actually doesn't exist. It's just a made-up part of the Prairie Home Companion radio show, and she looked absolutely distraught. But it made me think that Thoreau's cabin was probably as real to her as Lake Wobegon. It exists in that pantheon of American experience as an example of the truly independent spirit. So when I think about it, it's pretty remarkable how Thoreau gained this place of notoriety that has lasted centuries. He was born to an average family with no particular wealth or prestige. His father ran a pencil factory in which Thoreau worked from time to time. He graduated from Harvard and took up a teaching job, which he lost within 2 weeks of starting because he refused to cane his students. He did not occupy any academic position, and he only published 2 books in his lifetime. He lived this very idiosyncratic life in Concord, and no one seemed to mark him out as very special. He constantly submitted articles to the transcendentalist magazine, The Dial, and Margaret Fuller, the editor, sent one back with this message. It was rich in thoughts, though in its present form, those thoughts seem to me so out of their natural order that I cannot read through it without pain. She did, though, finally deign to publish some of his poems and essays. We love to claim Thoreau as a Unitarian since he grew up at First Parish in Concord and was buried close by, but he resigned his membership in a fit of pique because he couldn't stand to support the minister. This minister was the self-same Barzillai Frost, whom Ralph Waldo Emerson called a corpse-cold preacher. Ouch. But Thoreau, Emerson, and Fuller, many others of the time, took Unitarianism out of its still doctrinaire constraints and promoted what became known then as transcendentalism, a philosophy that held that traditional religious concepts weren't necessary to experience spirituality. They embodied, in fact, the spiritual but not religious mentality. And it probably had more impact on the development of Unitarian Universalism than any other form of religious thought in the 19th century. One could, in essence, then, draw a line between that imposing sanctuary of First Parish and the modern sanctuary of my youth, by virtue of people like Thoreau, as he encouraged people to find their own unique way to celebrate their religious ideals. He called the church an ancient and tottering frame with all of its boards blown off. He called its clergy hypocrites and cowards, and he asked, whatever was it that Jesus said that makes a New York bishop so bigoted? Sounds kind of like a modern UU, does he not? Thoreau was probably best known for building that tiny cabin in the woods from which he wrote almost all of his published works. He would walk in the woods in all weather, from dawn until mid-afternoon, and then sit down and write and write and write. His journals literally contained millions of words. Lest we think that he was completely independent, it should be said that the land upon which he built his cabin was owned by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And while he grew his own vegetables and caught fish and wildlife for some of his meals, he would regularly go into town and have dinner with the Emersons. And he took his laundry to his mother to do for him. So while we can't deify Thoreau as a saint or a paragon of independent virtue, we can easily credit him as the creator of the conservationist movement, from the way he called upon people to celebrate the natural world in all of its astonishing variety and beauty. He abhorred the way in which the land was becoming destroyed by industrialization. My colleague Carl Gregg noted that Thoreau saw all the ways that Smith's division of labor created what Marx called alienated labor, workers as mere cogs in the machine of industrialization. He also questioned the wisdom of building an economy based on an ever-increasing demand for production and consumption. And instead, in his book Walden, he advised simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. I say, let your affairs be as 2 or 3 and not 100 or 1,000. Instead of 1,000,000, count half a dozen and keep your accounts on your thumbnail. The idea of ownership was anathema to him. Firstly, ownership of things. He noted, I had 3 pieces of limestone on my desk, but I was terrified to find that they required to be dusted daily, when the furniture of my mind was all undusted still. But most profoundly, he found ownership of people to be the greatest sin of the government and its people. And as we heard in our story, famously spent a night in jail for refusing to pay taxes to support a government that created unfounded wars. Sound familiar? And refusing to liberate slaves. It may be apocryphal, but it was said that Emerson visited him in jail that night and asked, Henry, what are you doing in there? And Thoreau replied, Ralph, what are you doing out there? Out of this experience, he wrote the landmark essay on civil disobedience, and in that essay wrote, I cannot, for an instant, recognize that political organization as my government, which is the slaves' government also. He argues that the higher law of conscience may necessitate the breaking of unjust laws. If it is of such a nature that it requires you to be the agent of injustice to one another, then I say, buck the law. And he concludes, under a government which imprisons any unjustly, the true place for a just man is also in prison. He hosted an anti-slavery meeting at his cabin, not inside, of course, but outside. There's a remarkable picture of hundreds of people in 19th century formal garb standing amidst the trees, listening to the abolitionist speakers of the day. Clearly, he was so associated with the movement that people were willing to travel to his quaint domicile to educate themselves. He helped a fugitive slave escape to Canada, and he supported John Brown's violent protest against slavery, and indeed promoted violent insurrection against a government that imposed violence against others. He was as close to an anarchist as you could get, saying, "I heartily accept the motto, that government is best which governs least, that government is best which governs not at all. And when men are prepared for it, that will be the kind of government which they will have." While Thoreau would never have called himself religious, as I noted before, his spirituality was profound. He wrote, "My heart leaps into my mouth at the sound of the wind in the woods, whose life was but yesterday so desultory and shallow. Suddenly recover my spirits, my spirituality through my hearing. Ah, if I could so live that there should be no desultory moments in my life, that I could match nature always with my moods. To be awake is to be alive." To Thoreau, faith happens when we do not have to believe, but come into contact with the truth in a direct and intimate way. Faith is less a conviction of the mind than a movement of the soul. People show their faith in how they live. He said, "The only faith men recognize is a creed, but the true creed by which we unconsciously live is often different from the written or preached one." Thoreau encouraged a kind of extreme individualism. In Walden, he writes, "If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer." He could be derisive of people who did not live by their own drummer, saying, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. What is called resignation is a confirmed desperation." And as quoted in our reading this morning, "I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear, nor did I wish to practice resignation unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to live so sturdily as to put to rout all that was not life." I titled this sermon Civil Disobedience not only because of his willingness to flout the government, but because of all the ways in which I have now related that he stood up to the conventions of his day with unflagging courage and spirit. My colleague Howard Dana, who served the Concord Church, wrote this about why Thoreau still speaks to us. "We like how his activism encourages us to stand against injustices of the day. We like how his love of nature calls us to the woods ourselves. This favorite son, this wayward child, this prophet in our midst. This much-loved Thoreau also represents a deep ambivalence toward organized religion, which many of us share." Thoreau was only 44 when he died. That seems awfully young to us now, but perhaps not so rare in his times. But what is remarkable to me is to learn that he suffered from tuberculosis most of his life, which made it incredibly hard to do all that he wanted to do. The stories of him climbing mountains were actually sad stories for me to learn because he never could reach the top. His legs were too weak to do that. He faced death with equanimity. When his Calvinist aunt felt obliged to ask, "Henry, have you made your peace with God?" the unruffled Thoreau mightily replied, "I did not know that we had ever quarreled." More than 400 people attended his funeral, though he was hardly considered a celebrity in his hometown. Emerson performed the eulogy of his old friend, in which he said, "The country knows not, or at least in the least part, how great a son it has lost. It seems an injury that he should leave in the midst of his broken task, which no one else can finish. A kind of indignity to so noble a soul that he should depart out of nature before he has been really shown to his peers for what he is. But he, at least, is content. His soul was made for the noblest society. He had, in a short life, exhausted the capabilities of this world. Wherever there is knowledge, wherever there is virtue, wherever there is beauty, he will find a home. And Louisa May Alcott wrote touchingly of his funeral day, "It was a lovely day, clear and calm and spring-like, and as we all walked after Henry's coffin with its fall of flowers, carried by 6 of his townsmen who had grown up with him, it seemed as if nature wore her most benignant aspect to welcome her dutiful and loving son to his long sleep in her arms. As we entered the churchyard, birds were singing, early violets blooming in the grass, and the pines singing their softest lullaby. And there, between his father and his brother, we left him, feeling that though his life seemed too short, it would blossom and bear fruit for us long after he was gone, and that perhaps we should now know a closer friendship than ever while he had lived." Indeed, what Emerson and Alcott said of Thoreau is part of what helped his legacy to live on for so many decades in so many walks of life. His love of nature, his willingness to sacrifice for what he believed, his urging for us to live as fully as we can possibly live in each moment of every day. All of this makes him worthy of our regard, our memory, and our faith. Amen. And now let us sing a song that, though it is traditional, seems to speak to me of how Thoreau faced his death. Gonna lay down my sword and shields.
Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. Gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside. Gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Gonna shake hands around the world, everywhere I roam, everywhere I roam, everywhere I roam. Gonna shake hands around the world, everywhere I roam. Gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more.
Or place your hand on your heart as we share these words from my colleague Kathleen McTeague. those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared. They are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them choose the deeper path of living. Let us now extinguish our chalice together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love.